Before we get into MVVM, let me do a quick overview of the application that we're going to create. On the left over here, we have a data repeater with 3 items, which is our store. On the right here, we have a data grid view, which is our cart. We have a checkout button here, which is currently grayed out because there's nothing in the cart. You can click on the Add to Cart button, and the item is removed from the store and added to the cart. If you click on the Checkout button, the total is displayed and the items are removed from the cart. You can add multiple items to the cart, and then the total is the sum of their prices. So that's our application. Now let's get into what MVVM is. MVVM stands for Model, View, View Model. The view contains the UI, the model contains the data access, and the view model connects the view to the model. Let's see a few examples in our application. Let's talk about the view first. In a Y-shaped project, the view is the UI layer. You can edit the view in the designer and also in the code behind. So this is my view in the designer, and if I go here, page view, this is my view. I can expand it, and I can see I have pageview.designer.cs, right? This is the code that is edited whenever I edit anything in the designer. And this, if I go to view code, this is the code behind. So this is where I can do things relating to my UI. I can add click events and such, things like that. So that is my view. The model contains the data and data access. So let's go to the model. And here the model consists of 3 files, product.cs, and then 2 repositories, cart repository and store repository. Let's look at product first because it's the simplest. So this is just our data model, right? That shows sort of the shape of the data. We've got our different fields and then our constructor here. My repositories are also part of the model, and they're for my data access. So if you remember from before, the repository has an interface, and then it also has the implementation. So that's the model. Now let's talk about the view model. So I have the view model right here. It's called shoppingviewmodel.cs, and the point of the view model is that it connects the view to the model. So it has access to these repositories so that it can access the data, and it also has a few commands which will connect to the view. So in the view, you will click a button and these commands will be executed. For example, if you click on the Add to Cart button, then the Add to Cart command is executed. One thing to note is that you don't actually need a view model in order to make a YSG application. You can just implement all of the user interface logic in the view, specifically in the code behind, so something like page1.cs. But in MVVM, you implement the user interface logic in the view model. And the advantage of this is that it separates the user interface logic from the view. Another thing to know is that the view model implements the interface iNotifyProperty changed. With that interface, the view model notifies the data bindings when its properties products or cart are changed. Then the data bindings can update the UI elements in the view, in this case the data repeater and data grid view. And I can show this on this diagram here. So here we have the view. Remember, the view has a data repeater, a data grid view, and a button. We have the view model, which consists of a binding list products, a binding list cart, and a checkout command. And we also have the model, which is our products class. Remember, the products are in the list. The binding list of products and binding list cart, those are lists of products, or more accurately, they are binding lists of products. And we also have the cart repository and the store repository, which contains the code to access the, quote, database. In our case, it's just a list, but in a more complex project, you might actually have a database that stores your objects of the product class. You note here, the view model and model are UI independent, which means that you can use different views for the same view model and model. You could even write a WinForms app that uses this view model and model. So they are completely independent of the view. Now, let's show the data bindings. So the data repeater binds to the binding list of products. Data grid view binds to the cart, and then our button binds to the checkout command. So why use MVVM? Well, a couple reasons. First of all, testability. Since the view model doesn't depend on the UI, you can unit test most of your logic without needing to run the app or deal with UI frameworks. Second, maintainability. When features change, you usually only touch one layer instead of digging through a giant file. For example, you can update the UI layout without rewriting business logic, and vice versa. Third, data binding. Data binding, instead of manually updating the UI elements every time data changes, our binding system keeps the UI in sync automatically. And last, scalability. You can add new views and view models without breaking existing functionality. So it's great if you want to scale up and make a giant enterprise level app. Okay, so now that we've learned about MVVM, let's go ahead and dive into our project and actually build a WiseJ MVVM application.